Microservices-based iPaaS for SaaS, hybrid cloud and IoT. I hope you are doing good, enjoying your time at the conference in Vegas. Let me just get a show of hands. How many of you have used or interacted with integration middleware platforms? Oh yeah, that's quite a few. So you must be wondering, why did we build another integration platform? The founding team at RoboMQ, we had been running integration middleware for more than a decade, doing the mission critical real-time activation and provisioning, which is typical for telecoms. And a few years back, we realized that the traditional middlewares of today are not really geared for today's world, which is IoT. So we looked at some of the and create a product which fits those gaps. So one of this one, I don't think it's any news. There's an exponential adoption of the cloud. And the second thing that we are seeing is that the enterprise, gone are those days you wouldn't need an integration middleware. What we are seeing is a defragmentation. We are seeing, and then we are seeing on the application side, you get best of the breed application and build your own business processes so that you can create a competitive advantage in your marketplace. The challenge remains, how do you integrate them together? The other thing is microservices. Now, it allows kind of a Lego style of building your enterprise application. And this was a concept which we wanted to, we have all heard of fine range services and other things, but it is at this point in time with the evolution of cloud, better networking available, and evolution of micro-container technology like Docker, that you can today implement these microservices, which are single atomic independent function packaged as a unit, and they can run independently without having any deployment or operational dependency. Another trend which is being happening for the last couple of decades is the evolution of the service architecture itself. So in the 90s we had monolithic systems, provided us web services, SOAP services, where the system is something to be done about it. And it's so much fundamental in the nature itself, right? If you look at ourselves, we are composed of miniature things. It's all about composability. If you look at natural sciences, even if you look at some of the industry, think about how many thousands of the parts are assembled together to build an auto car. And what we do, we just drive it. We don't even ever realize, right, that how it is composed. So for the software industry also, we are at this point of time where we can use those basic fundamental natural principles of composability and miniaturization and build our software. That begs the biggest question. The advantage of these changes and the challenge. RoboMQ connects any device, SaaS application, enterprise system, cloud, or any language. The key differentiation, we have taken all protocol converters and connectors into the core product. So you really don't have a RoboMQ API as such. Rather, you have all APIs. So you can have a system to connect over the message-oriented middleware. The code that you develop is a microservice, in fact, so you can run this platform and single board computers like 4 GB of RAM. That's all you need to run. Taken this microservices and the container architecture to the extreme limits. And the third thing is hybrid messaging cloud. So in my experience of running middleware, the architecture, what we did is so RoboMQ doesn't offer the hub and spoke. So you essentially get a very distributed using local brokers, and you can federate architecture and these different applications and your enterprise any cloud. And you can truly have global, geographically distributed business processes, and you don't have to worry about where they are running. That looks like, I'm not going to go into detail because it's too big, but if you look at the blue, that is where we have a core message oriented MQP. We have Things Connect, which is suite of adapters and connector, which provide protocol conversion, and then on top of it, we also have messaging dashboard, management UI, error analytics, where you get the analytics on error. Every event is handled through error processing. You get email, alert, whatever you have. So we get all of these management components which are requisite for this kind of enterprise. Integration Flow Designer, which is a process orchestration for microservice. And we're going to go into more detail of this one, so I'm going to just skip this for now. And then you have event-driven analytics. What it allows you is to if systems are talking to each other, right, that's how the enterprises are, business systems talking to each other. What you can really do is, as they are talking, you can wiretap that data into your analytics database in real time and semantic driven versus waiting for 4 a.m. in the morning. Think of like an order system is creating an order and it's going to an inventory system. You can wiretap that information near real time, lightweight data warehouse, and you get the real time information. So that's another product. We also have a near me, which is a proximity aware workflows and sensors and RF to trigger workflow in your system. So for example, somebody walks in, I check him in. Or can I track the movement of my, are they visiting the table often? Because that directly correlates to the revenue of the customer service. A lot during the last couple of days. You need a messaging fabric. We provide and of course the adherence to microservices architecture we have. Now, another thing to container thing is look at from a research perspective. So using microservices, using RoboMQ, think of like an assembly line of data processing, just like any industrial. At the first on the left and the multi-protocol vendor. It is processed through these workstations, and because if you want to improve your product, you can add more type of microservices. Now, in terms of scaling, if you, from an operational research point of view, if you have a bottleneck at a workstation, what you do? Put more workers to it. Same way, more microservices to auto scale. They allow dropping among them and auto scale. And another advantage is that when you add these microservices, you don't have to add them at a particular location. You can add them in your data center, you can add them in US East in AWS, you can add them in Chicago in the Google Cloud, and they will all work as a team because they are using this conveyor belt where they're sharing the jobs and they automatically round robin. So you get that advantage of expandability and the scaling, which is across networks and cloud. That's a great advantage. So I rather think of microservices in this sense from a business process and optimization perspective than just a technology. Now, when you do microservices on RoboMQ, how we are stacked is the blue is what we offer as a product. So you get a distributed messaging fabric. You also get the API gateway which support all protocol including REST, SOAP, MQTT, file, JDBC, LDAP, etc. And then you will build your Docker containers or the microservices. This is where your logic is, and this is where you put your business logic code. This integration flow designer, it allows a visual drag and drop integration. It abstracts microservices, so you can build your complex event processing using these fine-grained microservices, using a very simple visual UI. Now, I'm going to show you this video which goes over the integration flow designer and really talks how you can visually chain the microservices within your business workflows.
In this demo, we're going to build a weather API in order to monitor and analyze the weather conditions in a particular zip code. RoboMQ's integration flow designer makes this complex process as simple as a drag and drop. We will detail how to use these nodes to create the process and collect and analyze the data. Overall, the data will enter through the injector, and then when the flow is deployed, the data will be collected and sorted until finally an email notification is sent and the pertinent information is stored in the database. The flow will go as such.
what you saw was very simple, right? It called a weather API service, pulled up the data, pushed it into a database and sent it. Very simple example. And it might have felt to you guys, all of you, like it's another, it's a BPM kind of a platform, right? You drag and drop these nodes and which gets and get it done. But the real difference is in the implementation. So the platform does not do anything itself. The platform, the visual designer is just a designer. It's a task dispatcher, or it's more like a conductor of an orchestra, right? What it does is it takes the data and it dispatches a job to microservices. So it just dispatches a job and it does a flow-based programming where it dispatches to one and the next and so on. And then it again goes to, if you remember that example of the conveyor belt, it goes to one of those workstations and where there could be army of microservices processing it. So you don't get this heavy at the center BPM, which often fail because that has to do a lot of heavy lifting. In this case, it's a very decoupled design where this visual designer doesn't do heavy lifting. It just dispatches a job and offers you huge amount of scale that you can put by running the microservices which are actually doing the heavy lifting anywhere on the cloud. So that integrated architecture really allows you to build integrations which are very distributed as well as they can scale up, because that's been a problem with the BPM. So I have run BPM and have been part of some major failures, especially when the telecom mergers happen and we moved from 42 million to 82 million subscribers, and that's where the failures happen. So this kind of architecture will help avoid those situations. Now, Topgolf is one of our major customers. They are a leading golf and entertainment venue, and they are also right here next to MGM. They went with the cloud-first strategy. They adopted the SaaS application and they built all their business processes or business operations using these SaaS applications. And RoboMQ is the glue which connects these applications to build the business workflows like employee onboarding, payroll processing, resource management, food and beverage inventory, POS, and so on. I'm so privileged and honored that I have Johnny Bynum. He is an enterprise solution architect at Topgolf. And I'll have him share his story of RoboMQ and Topgolf with you guys.
All right. Thank you, Ron. All right, as Bram mentioned, I'm Johnny Bynum, Enterprise Architect for Topgolf. I work for our TI department. Notice I said TI and not IT. We take innovation very seriously, so much so that we transformed IT into technology innovation for our department. So as a customer of RoboMQ, I'm here to tell you a little bit about our experience. There we go. So what is Topgolf? Show of hands, how many people have heard of Topgolf? Wow, okay, that's great, that's great. It's awesome to see how we're propagating and the brand's getting out. How many people have actually visited a venue? Okay, fair number. Okay, awesome. As Bram mentioned, we're also here in Vegas at the MGM Grand. It's our flagship venue, so highly recommend. It's a great time if you want to attend. So what is Topgolf? Topgolf is a digital-first company that was started in the late 90s by a couple brothers in the UK with innovation at its core. For example, they took golf balls and married golf balls with microchip technology that allows us to track the distance to a specific target on the field. So it's kind of baked into the DNA of who Topgolf is, this innovation. This timeline here represents sort of our growth. Where the yellow 2011 timeframe was when we switched over to a new generation of venues that really started accelerating our growth tremendously. We had, up until that point, we had just a handful of venues. Here's a little bit about our company and the Topgolf experience. So obviously there's golf associated with it. But again, some innovation comes in where we take golf and marry that up, mash it up with food and beverage, music, digital content, and apparel. great marketing slide here. So this is what the venue actually looks like. This is what you might see in a bay. It's a place you can relax, enjoy some food and drink, watch some TV, possibly hit some golf balls if you like to hit golf balls, but you don't have to. Players can also share their scores on social media, and we have a light show at night where the targets themselves actually light up and they sort of dance to the music. It's a good time. Here's sort of the current state of our venue openings in the U.S. We have 13 million guests. Like I said, we're in a period of extremely rapid growth right now. We're looking to open 7 to 10 venues per year and adding 5,000 associates annually for the next 3 years. This year we announced that we're opening a venue in Australia. It's going to be in Brisbane. We've partnered with Village Roadshow theme parks, and we have many other international venues on the radar. So not only are we growing, but we're also advancing our games through innovation. So here's some more proof that we take it seriously. We acquired World Golf Tour and Pro Tracer this year. That created the world's largest digital golf audience. Pro Tracer technology uses cameras to actually, you'll see it in the picture there to the left, it uses cameras to track the trajectory of golf balls as they go to the target. It does this in real time. It's really awesome technology. So a little bit more about growth and innovation. So innovation equals growth. We have over 12 million guests that were served in 2016. 915 million balls were hit. Over 6 billion virtual balls were hit in our WGT app. And now we have over 13,000 employees. And if you remember back to that slide that shows our timeline, when we first started, we were literally just a handful of venues up until 2011. And now we're at 13,000 employees. Just incredible. So with growth comes challenges. So what does all this mean? It means systems and it means integrations. Lots of integrations. With 12 million guests, that means food and beverage orders, payment transactions, game interactions, all that stuff needs to be processed. With 13,000 employees, that's a lot of time card data, paychecks to process, and we're planning on doubling that number in the next 3 years as well. We don't have a tremendous volume of data from a big data standards perspective, but the data that we do have is super critical for our business. So guaranteed delivery is absolutely important. So since we realized we needed a more thoughtful approach to our enterprise architecture, we went back and defined what our key quality attributes should look like. We define those as reliability, scalability, extensibility, and modifiability. There were a whole list of others, but these are our key quality attributes for our architecture. Then we went back and we defined the tactics that would satisfy those quality attributes. We defined those as cloud first, AWS, Azure, reliability, scalability, microservices that gives us the ability to scale and have resilient deployments. And then we implemented this notion of the ESB, the Enterprise Service Bus. And so that's where RoboMQ comes in. They give us mediation, service orchestration, and message enrichment. So in closing, I want to leave you with a final thought about innovation and a quote from Tom Preston that I just loved. Innovation is taking two things that already exist and putting them together in a new way. We're constantly looking for these mashups to further accelerate our growth at Topgolf. And in this case, we're using RoboMQ coupled with our microservices to accelerate our systems integrations. And we've had a number of successes with this. The most notable was one integration that was ADP to AD, Active Directory integration, and that saved us about $700,000 a year. So with that, I'll turn it back over to Bram. Thank you very much. Thank you.
So we have a few minutes left here, so we can open it up for the question and answers. If you have any questions, we can go into detail. Yes, sir.
Is this deployed in the cloud or on-prem?
It can be deployed on cloud, it can be deployed on premise, and it can be also deployed in a hybrid fashion. So you can deploy your microservices, which is your code, in any of these ways. And you can also deploy the broker or the RoboMQ core platform in the same fashion, in a hybrid cloud. So it supports all models. And our deployment dependencies are almost none. Only thing we need is a Linux and a Docker runtime.
So for top off, we're using AWS.
Any other questions? Yes.
If you develop your own microservices, can you get them into that visual tool to be able to pick them from the palette?
Yes. And you can also add your own microservice. Like you get a palette of nodes, and for each palette there's an associated microservice, right, which does that job. For example, there was on the slide there was something called CSV to JSON. So this is a microservice which does this transformation. We can build more nodes, we keep adding those palettes, but there's a framework by which your own developers can build a microservice. You have to follow a different pattern because it's a task dispatcher pattern, and does a flow-based programming, picks up a job, knows the source of it, processes it, dispatches it in the output, but you can add your own palette and associated microservice. It has advantage when you have processes which have a lot of usability, like something like CSV to JSON is a great fit for it. But in cases where you have very unique microservices, maybe the extra overhead of building through this tool may not be the best option. Because microservices can also be chained directly without using this visual panel. So you have both of these options depending upon your use case. More volume, this may be better. More uniqueness, direct microservices. Any other questions you have? Yeah, so let us stick around here for a few minutes, and if you guys have anything else to talk, definitely talk to you guys. And thank you very much. Enjoy your stay, whatever is left, and have safe travels. Thank you.